Oh, hello, everybody. Good morning. This is Paul. We are going to take a scan through the news and see what's going on. This is what I'm hearing, and we'll get into something else in a little bit. I can't be with you later. I have too many important things I have to attend to, so I'm going to take care of this early in the morning, 7:30 style in the morning here in Miami on this Friday. What I'm hearing about the Putin and the other country there is I'm reading, not that I'm getting reports, but I'm reading that Russia is moving back and stopping their offensive. Could be. It could be. I don't know. All I can tell you is I had kind of predicted this a little bit because I'm familiar with World War II and the difficulties that the Germans had in mounting an offensive into Russia itself, into Moscow. And as it were, they did get very close to Moscow, like within 45 miles of Moscow, 50 miles, 60 miles. They got pretty close to the capital of Moscow, Red Square. I believe it was under 100 miles. So, but the problem was the troops became cut off, and it was the strategy of Stalin, who was the leader of Russia, and he was a son of a bitch. I mean, he literally took prisoners out of jail and gave them toilet paper and had them run forward 4 or 5 feet apart. And the ones that got blew up by mines got blew up by mines. The one that made it, made it. I mean, that's how he was. When he asked you to spend a little more time in building those yaks and those whatever else, whatever other kind of things that the war effort needed, he was making a recommendation that you better follow. And with this knowledge, I understand what he did. And what he did was he completely cut. He had a scorch and burn policy. Stalin did. And what he basically forced the Ukrainians to do was they leveled everything and took away every natural resource, including firewood. They took away everything. They burned everything down when the Germans started invading towns. The Ukrainians had to pull back toward Russia and flee, and Stalin ordered everything scorched and burned. And they did this for a reason. They did that because they knew that the supply lines were going to be in trouble because it took so many miles of hundreds of miles of supply lines to be able to resupply the troops at the front. And these were tanks, and not only tanks, but men, and lots of them. And what finally wound up happening was that the Germans finally, most of them went into captivity. Some made it back alive. Some of the Russians that made it to Moscow actually made it back and survived the war, but most of them did not. And they were starved to death. They didn't have adequate clothing, and they either froze to death or they were taken as POWs. Believe it or not, some preferred to starve to death. Some of the Germans preferred to starve to death because they knew what Russian captivity meant. They knew what it meant. And I can't say that I blame them because I don't think the Russians provided too well for the German invaders, because that's exactly what they were. They were invading, and they weren't nice about it, generally speaking, although in Ukraine, you did have some Ukrainians that actually joined the fight against Russia. It wasn't a great deal of them, to be honest with you. Not statistically when you look at the numbers, but there were some that joined the Germans and fought, turncoated against Russia. So with this in mind, you can see when you look from north to south, I think they said it's around 700 miles. And when you start looking at this kind of area, 700 miles, 100,000 troops is nothing. Folks, believe me when I tell you, 100,000 troops can be virtually inconsequential over 700 miles of warfront. So I suspect that Russia is having trouble mounting offense right now. And indeed, what they're doing is they're pulling back, reconsolidating their forces, and waiting for reinforcements to hold their lines. Because from what I understand, and I don't know this to be true, I'm just seeing channels on YouTube that are saying that that the Ukrainians are pushing back the Russian lines. And that could be because Russia's retreating, or it could be that they're literally overpowered. I don't know. And it could also be that it's not true. But my guess is that it is true, that they are, Russia is moving back, withdrawing out of areas, and they may be regrouping for a counteroffensive. I don't know. But when you see this kind of miles or kilometers of 1,500 kilometers from north to south, folks, you're going to need a 1 million-man army, in my opinion, to move forward on that. It's just that's my feeling on it. It's and I'll stick to it. So there we go. We've killed 7.5 minutes. And I mention that because I know some people are interested in the goings-on of that. And I have a subscriber from Moscow, Russia, and they're getting something different over there. I'm quite sure of that. They're getting something different. But I don't know which one is correct. It's probably somewhere between the two, or it could be all what I'm telling you is right, what I'm hearing here, or it could be all untrue and that it's true what the Russian news is telling you. So I just put that out there, okay? Now, it's coming up on 8 o'clock in the morning this morning. I don't anticipate that there'll be a tremendous amount of news. I believe that my suspension is over from the other channel, which is, what is that one? The Apostle Paul 19. I think I go back on it around 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock today. I believe it's the 14th when I go back on. And maybe I'll be on now. I will go over there and mount these videos on both channels so that the people begin coming over here. Because once you get strikes, whether it's 1 or 2, especially with 2, but the problem is if you have 2 strikes on your channel, like I was telling Mr. Dice, he's probably a Russian YouTuber, and he's been showing all the goings on in Russia. He's pro-Russian, and he subscribed to me, but I think he unsubscribed. But regardless, what I see is that he has 2 strikes, and he thinks he's going to do all these wonderful things. And I told him, I said, don't bother. Once you get 2 strikes, they can send you a notice at any time, and you're bye-bye. You're gone. All your videos are gone. Everything is gone. So even with 1 video, they can keep looking through them and stuff. That's how this platform is. Now, let's go ahead and let's get into this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to Bitcoin, and let's find out what Bitcoin is doing. There's a tropical storm. Looks like a hurricane. Looks like it's going into Mexico, as That's what it looks like, or Central America. There doesn't look like that's going to affect us here. And I'll be very relieved this year when this damn hurricane season gets over with, because we just missed that horrendous hurricane, whatever the hell that name of that hurricane was. I don't remember, and I don't care. We just barely missed it. We got parts of it, but we got the outer fringes of it, and it missed us by not much. So I'll be happy when the 10th of November gets here, and that's pretty much it. We did get a late hurricane one time in late October, and you don't see too much of that after that, because in November, it really does start to settle down. The inclement weather starts to settle down here, and the temperatures fall and the humidity falls, and that settles down the waters in the Caribbean. The coolness just takes away, and that's why we have season that only goes through, I guess it's middle part of November. I forgot what it is now. It may be November, but you don't get many storms in November. I've never seen one. Anyways, let's go ahead and check Bitcoin. Bitcoin is $19,600, up $231. We will now check gold and silver, and we will find out what is happening there in the world of gold and silver. It was down yesterday, and today's Friday, so let's see. It's down. Gold is at $1,667. It's down $7. Silver went below $19, so it's at $18.95, down 17 cents. We'll see what happens today as the day goes on. I'll try to do a video at around 4 or 5, 6 o'clock tonight, and get it mounted on my other channel. Now let's, since we have no markets yet at 8 a.m., let's just go ahead and get into the news, and let's see what they're trying to run on us today. Okay, not good news for Donald Trump. They're doing all sorts of things for him. Okay, Kremlin officials warn of catastrophic World War III. Americans' nuke fears surge. And then about this January 6th subpoena for Trump, Bannon audio bombshell. I don't care one way or another. I listened to the tape. They say it's damning. It's just Bannon. It's just that guy, Steve Bannon. He owns Breitbart, doesn't he? Or he's involved with it. Yeah, he says that Trump was going to do this and Trump was going to do that. You can't rely on that. You can't rely on that. That doesn't mean anything to me. Some people take it as proof. I will tell you that I have not come down on that issue of January 6th, because it's kind of like me here where I live. When you see people that you think are like, they're okay people, generally speaking, they are not. They are mostly egghead, real bad people here. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality. And when you see people that you think are kind of maybe not so bad, they're usually bad. That's what I've noticed here. And I would love to be able to tell you that I don't think there was anything to that 6th of January, but it's ponderous to me, because I try to look at the truth. I don't try to look at it as a Republican or a Democrat or anything like that. From what I can take away from it is you had people who, I understand why they were doing this. I understand. I'm not telling you that I agree with it. I'm telling you that I understand why these people did what they did. You can only look at your southern border being completely taken over, and your indigenous people completely taken over by immigration, whether you want to call it illegal or uninvited or whatever it is that you want to call it. We all know what's going on, and no one wants to do anything about it. Why? Because it's a non-political issue. You have wealthy people like my friend MJ who demand it. They get cheap labor, and they're good at the labor. To be fair, the people are good laborers that come from south of the border. So you have Democrats that are looking to fill their voting ranks with these typically poor people, and Republicans want them for their business interests. So you're never going to stop the immigration problem. It's not going to happen. So those people on the 6th, that was probably one of their big reasons. That's why I tell you I kind of understand. But it's kind of like the Alex Jones thing. The Alex Jones thing, when Alex Jones was saying what he was saying, it all kind of made sense to him. But the problem was, once you put him into court and you have that specter of the extreme rational thinking without the ability to color anything or add any kind of conspiratorial angle, you're a dead duck. And that's what you're seeing with Alex Jones. And I know a little bit more than you folks out there about that situation, about all those lost little lives. I know a lot about it. I can't say one word because that's the quickest way to go bye-bye or worse, as Alex Jones is finding out. You're not allowed at this time, period. You are absolutely not allowed to make any comments that are disparaging about anyone that has something happened to them, supposedly, and have lost young people. You're not allowed to even comment on it unless you're a cheerleader. So if you try to find out things that don't make sense or things that you think are odd, you're going to get into real problems legally and otherwise. So it's worrisome because it starts setting up sacred cows, and you're not going to be able to investigate what may need to be investigated on a grand scale. I don't know, but they don't allow certain things when you go into court. They don't allow certain things that kind of point to something in one direction and you can kind of read between the lines. That's not allowed. So what do you think is going to happen to Alex Jones? He's getting absolutely his face ground into the dirt. So this is, I think, what happened in January 6th. And I think you had people who were very militant, and those people, like I told you, when you see people here and you say, well, they may not be that bad, I don't know them too well, but they're probably not bad people. Generally speaking, they're pretty bad, pretty fucked up people. Not trying to make myself prop myself up, but they're pretty bad people. That's what I've noticed. And I think that's the problem with them. The people that did this on the 6th of January, although I understand their reasons why they did it, they did not envision themselves. It was kind of like the guy who went to the protest. He went to some protest or something of the left, and he went in there and defended himself with a bow and arrow. He had he was an archer or something, and he had his thing right here, and it was a compound bow, and people started coming up to him, and he kind of told them to stay away because he had a bow and arrow. And after around 150 people gathered around him, he began to realize that things weren't going to go as merrily as he thought with his bow and arrow. So, and I don't even think there was 150 people. It was probably like 25, 30 people. Now, if you have a Tech 9, you might get a little bit more street cred on that, right? But not with a bow and arrow, okay? And this was a man who actually envisioned himself safe with a bow and arrow. This is what I'm trying to tell you folks. So you've got, I watched some of it that they recorded, and they had that one egghead in that UN helmet or whatever that helmet was. Those kind of, not a pith helmet, but it was like an actual combat helmet. But they were like the standard conventional helmet. And, you know, he's going up there, and I think down inside, he knew. But he couldn't let on to everyone else that he knew that what was going on was wrong, and that he shouldn't be there, and that there was no good way to proceed forward, but they were going to do it anyway. So he kept, because I looked at this leader, or what was one of the leaders, it looked like, and they got to Pelosi's desk, and some of his people were going, oh, let's go through the desk, and, let's look, this and that, and he stopped. The leader kind of stopped, and he said, no, we don't do that. We're better than that. Leave the papers alone. Let's move on and be really good people, and because we're not low like them. Let's keep going in. And it was bizarre, folks. When you think about that, he's making these decisions on the spot about whether or not he wants to go through the desk of a politician, and then he says, no, we're better than that. Hey, guys and gals, let's not do that because we're better than that. It's bizarre, folks. When you think about that, that is bizarre. Okay. And that's why I think that there's something to it. Okay. They've got video, and I haven't seen both sides. So I don't like talking about it because I wasn't there. Thank God. I'm glad I wasn't anywhere near that place. Otherwise, they'd probably be, all over you. If you were even in that zip code, like with a credit card, and you were a Republican or whatever. So I'm glad I wasn't there. But I can't support, what they did. I can't. I know why they tried to do it, but can't. Let's keep going now. All right, so he's going to have problems. Stocks swing 5% in a day. They were way up yesterday. I saw they were up like they went up like 900 points. I saw 900 up on the Dow. Let me see what it says here. Let's see. A shock turnaround in equities sent Wall Street searching for anything to explain how yet another red-hot inflation number translated into one of the best days of the year. I saw it. It was up 900 points. It's all fantasy land, folks. Yeah, with the inflation and, eggs. Can you get eggs for $2.50? I doubt it. They were 89 cents 18 months ago, 2 years ago, or less. Now they're $2.69. Well, that's par for the course. Canned chicken, forget about it. I mean, everything is going ballistic. Okay, so there's nothing good about this, but I think that Wall Street is just, there's a lot of people making money on corrupt things. And there are a lot of corrupt things right now that are going on that the people had guarantees. And that is, you invest into certain companies and you had no risk because it would be required or it would be coerced out of the people to be forced or coerced to do it or lose everything or a lot. Of course, because it was such a big emergency, how in the world could you hold the manufacturers responsible in any way? So if people felt one way or another and didn't feel up to par, well, that's just too bad. That goes along with the fact that it's a big emergency. Oh my God. So don't worry. It's coming again. And not just in the United States, because the people are brain dead zombies, just like you. A brain dead zombie. That's why we don't get subs at this channel. You can't, because no one wants to be called a mindless zombie. And that's exactly what you folks are. My subscribers excluded. Not going to learn. A lot of stuff in red here. We'll go over it quickly. Video shows Pelosi taking cover I guess this was on January 6th. Secret Service knew of Capitol threat week before. Update, FDA warns of Adderall shortage. Depraved horror movie causes viewers to vomit and faint in theaters. More mindless idiocy. More of what the people want right now. So give it to them. I won't get into it. Elon Musk under federal investigation tied to Twitter deal developing. Two things. Number one, he's not playing the game. He's not doing what he's told to do. I'm sure that the U.S. military and the powers that be very much wanted him to use his technology in order to be able to coordinate things to harm Russia. That's my guess. I can't prove it. And it looks like he didn't want to play ball. He's afraid that if he does it, this is what he's saying. I can't tell you what the man's feeling, so I don't want to speak for him. But according to what I'm getting, he's afraid that if he makes any help in what they're trying to do to Russia, that I guess he spoke to Putin. And I guess Putin just laid it out to him, read him the Riot Act, and said, they're not afraid to use mushrooms one little bit. Not even one little bit. So, but the other thing about that with Elon Musk is once he backed out of the sale of Twitter, because he said he found bots and a lot of it was fake and this and that, I didn't stand behind him on that, because once you make a deal, I think you have, by law, not by law, but by handshake or agreement, you have to fulfill the obligation of that. And if you don't, you can run into legal liabilities, you know? And okay, if it's not good and it's wrong what they were representing, then you have to go through with the deal anyway, and that's what the courts are for. You can claim that it was a fraudulent or that it wasn't right, and then you can pursue that after the sale. But I don't think Musk wanted to put out the money, because he knew it would get tied up for 15 years in the courts or 6 years. What's the difference with that kind of money? So I think that's what happened with that. So I think they're putting pressure on Musk now. I think they're punishing him. It's my guess. All right, let's see. Some guy was arrested after he evidently amputated his finger in a crime, and it was left at the crime scene, and they got him. They got his finger, and then they identified him. So the word to the wise, if you do a crime and your finger's amputated and left at the crime scene, by all means, do everything within your power to get your finger back, or destroy it or whatever you can, or mess it up or take on, you know what I mean? Because they're going to nail you with the fingerprints. So if you can't get it back, do something to destroy it or whatever. Right? Okay. Because they got him. They popped him. Wouldn't take 30 seconds on a computer. The Chinese were very right about that when they made it over 1,000 years ago. The fingerprints are very unique to each person. And with modern day computers, it's easy peasy. All right. We're almost done here, folks. I don't think there's going to be much to talk about. Military too woke to recruit. Embarrassment. We just had a 24-year-old young man who's dead. And why is he dead? Because he was trying to make it through Hell Week, what they call Hell Week, to be a Navy SEAL. And he was doing it with full-on pneumonia. And he died after he finished the first wave. That's only the first week. And 50% of the people don't finish it. And he finished it and then died of pulmonary edema, which is something to do with when, I don't know exactly what it's about, but that's what they said. I don't want to come across as knowing anything. They said in the article that it comes from when going up and down in the water, in freezing cold water, and your lungs do something or another. That's what they said. I'm not telling you what it is because I don't know. But whatever it is, it killed the 24-year-old man. His name was Kyle something or another. And I feel bad for the kid because something is wrong, folks. I cannot support that kind of military training that is so severe that people die insofar as trying to get through it. And the corruption and the sadism in the military makes it so that when somebody's clearly got pneumonia, because when you have a pneumonia, you can tell. You don't have to be a fucking genius to tell when there's somebody that's got pneumonia. But they didn't bother to protect the young man. So they said there's going to be reprimands. I don't even want to get into it. I would not put my son into the military for all the tea in China, okay, or India. They're sadistic bastards in my opinion. I've already talked to all of you folks about that before. All right. Oh, and by the way, if you join the military, now they're having trouble getting people to join the military. Well, why? Well, if you serve 17 years and you're looking forward in 3 years to retirement and all the accoutrements that you are to receive, like pension and benefits, and they tell you to do this, and you don't do this, you lose everything. I know, you mindless idiots. It's a simple thing, isn't it? That's because you're mindless stoops. That's why. Because you're mindless, retarded, sub-retarded, not even retarded, sub-retarded, imbecilic idiots that do not understand one thing from another, my subscribers excluded. So when people are losing everything, because most of them did, virtually everybody did, because you can't afford to lose everything, right? Well, some people are going to stand up and they're going to fight you. And you know what's going to happen? You're going to be exposed as sadistic bastards, as the military is, in my opinion. And you know what's going to happen? Nobody's going to want to join that military, because what if they tell you to get anal enemas for a month? You're going to have to do it. And if you don't want to do it, or you don't think it's right, it doesn't matter. You'll lose everything. So good riddance to our military. Maybe we can get Canada to protect us. So sickening. All right, folks, let's finish this out. Russia and NATO holding nuke drills despite rising tensions. Macron is the French, whatever the hell he is, president or leader, under fire for saying France wouldn't respond in kind. The French, what do you expect? The French lost in World War II in a couple of, 2 weeks? It was probably over in 4 days. In reality, they had the Maginot Wall. The Germans just went around it. And they crushed right through it. Blitzkrieg with those big fucking Panzer tanks and shit. Tigers and all that. The French were all fucked up. You can't expect anything. They're good at making love with their faces. Forget about everything else. You know the old joke. The French tanks had 4 gears in reverse. You understand? That's so they could get away quick when they were being attacked. And they also had 1 gear that was forward in case they were attacked from their rear. You had to have a forward gear to get away. This comes from history, folks. The British had the strongest navy in the world. You had the Portuguese, you had the Dutch, you had the French, and they were all under the British. And the British used to try to engage French ships for a battle, and the French ships almost always tried to run. And that's just fact. You can take a look for yourself. So don't be surprised about the French not wanting to involve in a nuclear response to Russia bombing with a mushroom Ukraine, or limited, or whatever it is. France is saying they're not getting involved. It's worrisome, because you're going to have these cracks and these fissures opening with different countries of the EU, and you're going to see just what Genghis Khan, just what Alexander the Great did. Not everybody is on the same page for every single thing. And that's why people are different all over the world. Let's keep going here. Countries stockpiling iodine. That's for radiation sickness. Moscow airstrikes intended to show force reveal another weakness. Will Putin fall like Khrushchev and Gorbachev? Prominent German mosque to sound call to prayer for the first time. Hell on earth. Haiti gang violence spurs outbreak of cholera, other illnesses, catastrophic situation. Folks, I don't normally like to see our military going anywhere, but I think it's time. I've been reading on it. We have a Haitian population here in South Florida and a lot of poor people. This is not a wealthy situation. You get a lot of poor people that they can't even have clean water. They're getting sick. The gangs are terrible over there. Something like over 200 gangs in Port-au-Prince. It's awful. Something has to be done. They can't do it themselves. Someone has to step in there and clean this shit up. Watch the whole time, quote unquote. China's surveillance state grows under Xi. Of course. There'll be no such thing as individuality in China. There never was anyway. You're part of the machine, the Borg, the big unit, the whole. And you're a cog in the wheel of that, and you'll do as you're told for the good of everybody in China. Internet censors in China race to quell protest chatter. As I told you, it's not allowed. This is what you fucking fucktards here in the United States, that's what you want too. That's what you're pushing for, and that's what you're doing. I'm a perfect example of it. I told you about that 10-year-old getting a large arm tattoo. Not good. 10 years old, too young for that. Murder rate plummets amid gangster peace, quote unquote gangster peace, in Medellin. That's in Colombia. Argentina is showing 100% inflation, it seems. Oh, Turkey's introducing jail terms for, quote, fake news. Well, who's going to decide what news is fake and what is not fake? That's the real question, isn't it? Well, I'm sure all you people are so smart. You'll be able to figure all that out and kind of tart it out to us stupid people, huh? Well, you'll know what's real news and what's not real news, what's fake and what's real, huh? Okay. Folks, take care. 38 minutes of your life gone, and hope you're all fine. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.